Hey, Mike, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, Jake. How you
How's
doing?
your? I'm doing very well. I'm excited to be back. I'm excited to kick off the year. And I am so very deeply disturbed about one of the stories that has come up today that we're going to talk about. But other than that, I'm doing really well. I'm doing really
Hmm.
well. I guess that's the thing about being in cybersecurity is there are just disturbing things.
There are just disturbing things. It's an occupation where the definition of your daily activity is you're going to lose.
Yep. Yep.
Sadly,
I mean, you're not always going to lose. I mean, in fact,
well, there are some wins.
the majority of the time you're winning, right? I mean, think of how many attacks there are per day, that you repel, that you defend against. The bad news is the bad guys only need to get in one time and you can fight over and over and over.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that is the
Well,
truth.
and honestly, going through the news as much as I do to do the news blast,
Hmm.
the news is always depressing. And maybe that's just because media needs, to enrage or depress you
Oh God,
in order to.
you know what? This is a debate for another time. The blaming of the media is, oh God, you're just driving me crazy. Um, oh, but we're not gonna go there. We don't have
Yet.
enough time. You know
Okay.
what? You know what, everybody? If you want Mike and me to debate the media, let us know, and I will spend 20 minutes beating Mike in a debate about the media.
We'll
Um,
see.
it's not even a fair fight. By the way, in case you are noticing, Mike is in his drum studio because he got locked out of the office. It's not a cyber problem. He just lost the
Yeah,
key.
there's a whole
Um,
subject there.
yeah. All right. So, security awareness training is next week. We're going to do it monthly this year. Another really cool thing is there's now an interactive cybersecurity career map. We talk a lot about
And this is useful.
cybersecurity
I
careers.
I
Yeah,
checked this out, not because I'm looking for a job, but I checked it out, and it's I think one of the more useful things I've
yeah.
seen.
I'm going to put it in the chat. So if you're watching on LinkedIn, you'll see the link in the chat. It'll come up there, and on YouTube, I think it'll come up there too. So yeah, that's kind of cool. Okay.
Yep.
Okay, we got to start with this thing that has really, I think we saw this a couple of years ago start, where bad guys would attack a school or a healthcare organization, and they would contact one or two parents of the school
Mhm.
district and say, "Hey, we have your kid's data. Call the school district," or contact some of the patients. There's one really awful case where they stole pictures of women, who
From a
had cancer
plastic surgeon.
surgery. Well, there's that one too.
There's that one too.
Yeah, really awful things. Well, now the criminals seem to be doing this at scale, and they're programatizing it. And it is this is how 2024 is starting. Mike, can you tell folks what's going on?
Well, they are contacting the patients from hospitals
Hmm.
whose records have been disclosed, and in one case, they're saying, "Well, the hospital isn't going to pay the ransom, and here's our deal: it's $50 if you want it removed completely, because that's what we sell the record for, and when we sell it, it's exclusive. We don't sell it to anybody else. So if you buy it from us, then nobody else will get it." So that's not the only um, case of this. I mean, you went through a couple more. There's Integris Health is another
Hmm.
one. They're getting
Hmm.
extortion emails after the attack. I think that's in Oklahoma.
Yep.
And those blackmail emails say that, their data was stolen. And if they don't pay an extortion demand, the data is going to be sold to other actors who will absolutely use it for fraud. That's the threat. Now, I, I'm not seeing, at scale fraud with these records. And there are millions and millions and
Oh
millions and
no.
millions of
No.
records
I
out
don't.
there.
No, no, no. What this is not at scale fraud. This is
No,
at scale
but yeah,
terrorism. I mean, this is extort, before they would just extort the organizations.
right.
Now that that's working less, maybe,
Yeah.
they've decided to go after, after the truly innocent victims.
Well, part of this could be that they are finding it harder and harder to monetize those stolen records, right?
Yeah.
Again, there's so many of them out there. How many can you have, right? So unless there is some just very broad scale fraud, possibility coming at us, and that could happen, from a state actor. Ah, I think they're just having problems selling the records, and this is another revenue stream for them.
Yeah, I mean, I think that that's true. But from a and maybe we should do more on this. Maybe we should bring in some communication experts and some other
Yeah.
folks to talk about, what do you do now? Like, this has now happened for school districts. This has now happened for hospitals. Like, this is clearly going to be 2024's new-ish big tactic.
The new trend, yeah.
Yeah.
It's all we need. This year is going to be hellish. I am sorry. Just all signs point to this being an off scale year.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's fun.
And part of
Speaking
it's
of
because the election's coming up.
There's that too. So speaking of which, the FBI is, they're, going,
Back and forth with these
mano
guys.
a mano.
Yeah.
The, Alpha V Black Cat Gang. What's going on there, Mike?
Well, the FBI keeps grabbing their domains. They don't grab them back. They resurface somewhere, and the FBI grabs the domain. And they're saying that Black Cat has started promoting a new URL as their future home. I don't know if that's insulated from the FBI being able to grab it. That tactic, just getting a court order to take over a domain, it takes a while. So these guys can resurface all over the place and kind of stay one step ahead,
Hmm.
right? We need to catch him, right? We caught the trick bot guy, and he pled guilty and he's going to go to jail for a while.
Hmm.
We need more examples like that because the records extorting patients, the fact that these guys can just keep popping up all over the place. We got to stamp this out, and prosecutions, I guess, are the only way we can really do that. What other deterrent is there?
Uh, yeah, I mean, I suppose I should make some joke about, cats, especially because you can probably hear my dogs barking upstairs. Um, other big news, Barracuda email security appliances
Yep.
are, there's a 0-day Chinese hackers.
Yep, and they are being pretty prolific about going after those exposures. So um, this story, I think, was from December 26th, and it continues. Right, the problems with Barracuda, what they call the ESG, the security gateway, enterprise security gateway. It's had all these problems, and in fact, there was one that was so bad that they had to replace a whole bunch of them. And if you haven't done anything about all of the contacts you've been given for your Barracuda firewall, Chinese are coming up your backside.
Fun.
Fun.
Um, hey, and back to healthcare for a second. I forgot to bring this up when we were talking about it, but
Because I just made a proctology joke? No.
ooh,
Whoa.
it's January 4th. It's way too early for proctology jokes, Mike.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, Now let's get back to healthcare. So HHS,
Yes.
they
This is a
have
good
now
thing.
unveiled. Yeah, this is a good thing. The
Right.
government is saying, hey, there are some things everybody should do. What's changed here?
Well, they're going to bust out some money, number one. So there's going to be additional funding. And this, you and I talked about this a couple of weeks ago. This part of this is about prioritizing how they're going to strengthen accountability, right? So there's going to be
Yeah.
fines involved, and the speculation is that those fines are going to be used in part to fund the program. So they're going to take it from one hospital and give it to another hospital, I guess. But hopefully what we're homing in on here is the one-stop shop for healthcare guidance for security. And one of the things they're going to do is they're going to take another run at HIPAA, because it's been a long time since there's been an update to that. So there's going to be a comment period coming, and This is participate in that comment period because they take all the comments seriously. But probably spring or so, there's going to be new cyber requirements coming out that will be embodied in HIPAA, and hopefully that will be the one place where you go for your requirements. Because right now there are too many places and too many requirements coming at everybody.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Um, so earlier you mentioned election, and boy,
Yeah.
it's an election year, so that's fun. Um, so there's been a lot about, will there be more election malfeasance? And there have been articles about it. What do you see in here?
Well, so you and I have been talking about this, I think, for like a couple of years, right? So, I did some work, some consulting work for a company that services elections in one way. And um, in doing that work, what we settled on was, look, there are two outcomes that we want to avoid here. Number one is actually changing the outcome of the election. Number two is um, uh, engendering dissatisfaction or distrust in how the election was handled, so that people think that they just can't trust the outcome, right? And I don't think this is really helpful, but the article is talking about, well, and here are the techniques that they're probably going to use. Well, I don't know that it's good to, kind of telegraph that, but they were talking about denial of service against an election system, election reporting system.
Hmm.
We talked about the UOCAVA voting that happened in Ecuador, and that's exactly what happened to them. They got a DDoS attack, couldn't process that election. Leak of voter registration databases. Uh, we talked specifically about ransomware attack against specific counties, right? Because you don't have to sway that many counties in our absurd electoral college artifact of the Civil War way of doing presidential elections. And I think that's the one that's going to happen. I think it's going to be ransomware against some counties. But right, even if that does not, that would not change vote counts. But everybody will go, we can't trust the results, and that's what's going to happen. That is definitely what's going to happen.
Yeah. Yep. Hey, before we get to threats and vulns, there are two big
Yeah,
international things going on. And somebody said to me, "Hey, you don't talk about Russia every time. You don't talk about what's going on in the Mideast every time. There's something going on both places." So,
yeah.
Russia and Ukraine, uh, I mean, there are several things going on there that could leak over here.
Yeah, well, there's a couple of things that have happened. The Ukrainians are getting pretty good at going after Russian infrastructure. So, one is a water utility that was hacked, and apparently they smoked them. There's nothing left. What did they say? They were demolished. They demolished their IT infrastructure. And the other one that happened, there is an enterprise resource management application that's in use all over the country, and they were able to compromise that. And apparently, there's millions and millions and millions of dollars in losses from Russian companies because of the unavailability of that ERM system. So that's a couple of things that the Ukrainians have been doing to punch back. Um, Part of this is in retaliation for taking down Kyivstar, the communication network in Ukraine. But then on the other side of the world, there's something like 15 cyber attack groups that are affiliated with Iran, Hezbollah, Hamas, going against Israel right now. It's getting super
Well, so
active.
and I think the really important thing there is they're trying to attack Israel, but also Israeli companies, which is how they got into the water treatment facilities in the US. And so that is something to keep an eye on.
Yeah.
We're certainly not saying don't do business with Israeli cyber companies or Israeli IT companies, but it is prudent to keep an eye on what happens there because they have become, unfortunately, the target of terrorist groups.
Yes. And it's not, I mean, I think the tip of the iceberg is attacking those Israeli products. It's really, I think, what we're looking at is attacks against infrastructure of Israeli allies,
Yeah.
right? I
Yeah.
mean, we're a very short way away from that.
Yes and no. I so I think that you have to. one of the ways that that the Arab world and some of these folks don't want to be the enemies of the US. They want, and when I say the US, I don't mean the government. I mean popular opinion in the US. And they don't want to do something that turns US popular opinion, some popular opinion against them. So we'll see. You're on mute now.
How much positive opinion is there that they're trying to preserve? There's not much. You know, I,
I think I mean I don't know. I think it
I just
depends.
don't think they want to do what would look like an overt act of war, right? What's
That's
going on
yeah,
between the countries over there right now? That is cyber war, right?
yeah.
Going after infrastructure. I don't
Mhm.
think they want to be perceived as going after American infrastructure because the baseball bat that would come out is pretty effective. So there's that. But there are other Israeli allies that don't have the muscle of the United States.
That's true. That's true.
Right?
All right, Mike. Threats and vulns.
Okay, so we have this critical Apache, it's of biz vulnerability. CVE is 51467. Apparently, Sonic Wall found this for Apache. I might want to get after that one. CISA is warning about something called the FXC router, which is Future X Communications, and a QNAP network video recorder. These are under active exploit right now. There's an
Fun.
interesting vulnerability in Windows. It's an old-timey thing called DLL search order hijacking, and there's a new one that will bypass Windows 10 and 11 protections.
Hmm.
It's not clear that there is a patch for that because this is new research that's just come out. Interesting thing with SMTP, and this one's going to be, I think, kind of bad. Um, it's called SMTP smuggling, and from my read, it's more of a design flaw
Hmm.
than a vulnerability that can be patched, and it has to do with out of data end of data sequences and how SMTP servers may handle those differently. And it
Hmm.
lets people smuggle in arbitrary SMTP commands. What this means is they're going to be spoofing email addresses that bypass DMARC and other DNS records that are designed to prevent that from happening. So you're going to get a piece of email that looks like it
Hmm.
really did come from maybe a business partner
Sure.
asking you to change the bank routing number that you're paying them to.
Hmm.
There's an SSH vulnerability. If you have SSH facing the internet, you need to make sure that you can't fall back to a vulnerable cipher there. So check that out. It's called the Terrapin
Yep.
SSH vulnerability, and patch Chrome.
Always patch Chrome. All right, Mike. At the end of all these, there's the kicker, the thing that makes us go or laugh a little bit.
Hmm.
What do you got? How are you going to kick off the year?
Well, so I'm gonna kick off the year by kicking Elon Musk, I think. Um, so researchers, so this is right not in the wild, but now there's proof of concept that's demonstrated this is possible. They were able to crack the Tesla autopilot with Elon mode
Hmm.
and access data from the car. So this Elon mode is full self-driving mode, and which I would never want to do. Uh, but it is what it is. This hack can enable premium features and disable safety features. So on the one hand, you can jailbreak your car and get extra features. On the other hand, somebody can jailbreak it for you and make you crash. So I think it's funny that it's Elon mode that they were able to determine was the name of this this mode in the car.
So Elon mode, you know, automates things, and you crash the car, and then it declines in value. Are you describing a car or Twitter?
Well, I think the implication is clear, isn't it? And this is I don't know if this is a real movie or not, but I got to tell you, I saw this short on YouTube, and it was a couple of people driving in their car, and they come up to this gigantic crash scene with a whole bunch of crashed Teslas, and
That's the movie on Netflix that
is it?
everybody watched at the end of the year, and then
I
was
didn't watch it.
Yeah.
It's so they had hacked the Teslas to just keep ramming into themselves,
Yeah.
and these people had to like get out of there as quickly as they could.
Did
So
for people who have watched that movie, that's
it's a
sort
bit
of
of a
right.
stretch. It's a bit of a stretch.
All right, it is a good scene. It is a memorable scene.
It is a memorable scene. It certainly is.
It will be misused for years to come. All right, everybody. Have a great day. Happy New Year. Again,
Yep.
if you need anything, reach out to me, Jake at criticalinsight.com. If you need Mike to hit symbols for you, email him, mike.hamilton at criticalinsight.com. Have a great New Year, and we look forward to talking to you all soon. Bye bye.
Yep. Happy New Year, everybody. Bye.